Hezbollah launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel, most of which were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome. The attack is in response to an Israeli strike that killed one of the Iranian-backed militant group's top commanders.
It was a seemingly ordinary night in Jerusalem, the holy city that gleamed beneath the starry sky, a beacon of divine promise and unshakable history. Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, was immersed in the relentless duties of his office, reviewing national security documents in his official residence. Yet, as the weight of the nation rested on his shoulders, something extraordinary happened, an experience so profound it would change his perspective on scripture, prophecy, and the future of humanity itself. Overcome by an unexplainable weariness, Netanyahu paused to seek strength in prayer, turning to the timeless words of Psalm 121. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. But as he closed his eyes, the world around him seemed to fade. A radiant, otherworldly light enveloped him, and suddenly he found himself in a vast, desolate valley, a place of both mystery and divine presence. There, on the horizon, stood a majestic figure radiating an unearthly brilliance. The figure spoke with authority and power, its voice echoing across the valley. "Benjamin, I am the one who has guarded this land." This is the moment Netanyahu claims changed everything, a divine revelation that Jerusalem, and perhaps the entire world, is on the verge of something monumental. Stay tuned as we dive into the details of this incredible experience and what it might mean for humanity's future.
Spread the truth far and wide, and may the truth advance. Alas.
Since the beginning of time, you have been the leader of Israel. Yet, your role is far greater than governing. You are called to be a witness to the signs of the times, a herald for my people. The words rang out with authority and a resonance that shook the very core of the Israeli leader's soul. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu felt his heart pounding as never before. He recognized the voice as something divine, something beyond earthly comprehension, something he could not ignore. The figure standing before him, cloaked in light, continued speaking. "Look at what is before you." Netanyahu turned, his gaze falling upon a terrifying vision. He saw nations gathering against Israel, armies marching in unison, their banners raised high with hostility. Chaos spread like a dark cloud over the earth. Among the hostile nations, alliances were formed, impossible partnerships between countries that had historically been enemies. Yet all of them were now united against Israel, his beloved homeland. "This is what is coming," the figure declared. "The time of the prophecies is being fulfilled. The battle of Armageddon is approaching, as it is written." And they gathered them together into the place called in Hebrew Armageddon, Revelation 16:16. The figure's words carried both a warning and a promise. "But do not fear, for I am the Lord, and my word stands firm. Those who trust in me will be protected." As the vision unfolded, Netanyahu saw something that brought hope amid the terror. In the midst of the dark sky, a brilliant light appeared. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, radiating warmth and glory. Within the light was a host of angels, their presence filling the heavens with an overwhelming sense of peace and power. At the center of the light stood a resplendent figure clothed in indescribable glory. Netanyahu's heart leaped as he recognized him, the Messiah. "I will return," the Messiah proclaimed, "and my foot will tread on this mountain, as I have promised. In that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east." Zechariah 14:4. Overwhelmed with reverence, Netanyahu fell to his knees. Tears filled his eyes as he understood the gravity of the vision. He was not just a political leader. He was being called to prepare his people, not merely for political battles, but for the fulfillment of God's divine plan. When the vision faded, Netanyahu found himself back in his office. Everything around him appeared the same, yet within him, something had changed forever. The experience had marked him, awakening a new sense of purpose and responsibility. The next day, Netanyahu called an emergency meeting with his spiritual advisors and Israel's religious leaders. With deep emotion, he recounted his experience, sparing no detail. Some listened with skepticism, others with fear, but all felt the weight of the Prime Minister's words. His voice carried the conviction of a man who had encountered the divine. "I am not here just as a political leader," Netanyahu said, his voice steady yet impassioned. "I am here as a servant of Israel and a witness to what is to come. We need to turn to God, for the times ahead will be challenging. But the Lord has promised, and it shall come to pass that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." Joel 2:32. From that day forward, Netanyahu devoted himself not only to politics, but also to promoting a spiritual awakening in Israel. He sought to prepare the nation for the fulfillment of prophecy, leading with both faith and courage. The challenges were great, but he knew that God's hand had always been upon Israel and would remain so. Amid rising global tensions, Netanyahu's conviction only deepened. Nations appeared to be aligning in ways that echoed biblical prophecy. The unrest was palpable, and Israel stood at the center of it all. That night, as Netanyahu meditated in silence, he felt a divine presence envelop him, as though the Lord himself were beside him. Suddenly, he was caught up in another vision. He saw the heavens open and heard a powerful voice calling his name. "Benjamin, listen," the voice said. "Listen to what the Lord of hosts has to say. The time is approaching, the time of a war to end all wars, when all the nations will rise up against Israel, just as it is written. When the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle." Revelation 27:8. The weight of these words struck Netanyahu with both awe and responsibility. Then the Lord mentioned something peculiar: Wilson's Ark. Netanyahu did not understand the phrase at first, but he felt it was prophetic, tied to both the past and the future. It would be revealed in time. Days later, a dark morning arrived that would forever be etched in Israel's history. Emergency alarms echoed across the nation as reports came in. Iran had launched 300 missiles directly at Israel. The unprecedented attack sent shockwaves through the country. Defense systems, including the Iron Dome, were activated, but the sheer magnitude of the assault was overwhelming. In the crisis room, Netanyahu stood surrounded by military and intelligence advisors watching the monitoring screens. The chaos unfolding before him was unimaginable, yet his mind turned to the vision he had received. Was this the fulfillment of prophecy? Was Israel now entering the period described in Revelation, when nations would rise against her? Despite the terror, Netanyahu drew strength from God's promises. He recalled the words of Isaiah, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Isaiah 41:10. Gathering his military and spiritual advisors, Netanyahu spoke with unwavering resolve. "This is not just a matter of physical warfare," he said. "This is spiritual warfare. What we are facing is a battle far greater than what we can see, a struggle between good and evil, between light and darkness." The skies over Israel were lit up with streaks of fire as missiles filled the air. Yet, as Netanyahu watched, he witnessed something extraordinary. Many of the missiles were intercepted by defense systems, while others seemed to veer off course inexplicably. It was as if an unseen force were intervening. "It is the Lord Almighty who fights for us," Netanyahu declared. The attack left Israel shaken, but not broken. The hand of God had been evident, protecting his people in their darkest hour. The experience deepened Netanyahu's resolve to prepare Israel for the prophetic times ahead. He knew that the challenges would continue to mount, but he also knew that ultimate victory belonged to the Lord. In the days that followed, Netanyahu's testimony became a beacon of hope and a call to action. He urged his people to seek the Lord with all their hearts, reminding them of Joel's promise, "Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." His leadership took on a new dimension, one that combined political acumen with spiritual insight. Global tensions remained high, and Israel's place in the prophetic scenario became increasingly clear. Yet, through it all, Netanyahu held firm to his trust in the God of Israel. His experiences, both the visions and the trials, had transformed him into a leader uniquely prepared for such a time as this. The Battle of Armageddon was drawing closer, but Netanyahu's faith in God's promises gave him the courage to stand firm. He reminded his people that though the end times were near, the ultimate victory belonged to the Lord, and his plans would prevail.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the resolute leader of Israel, sat in his office in Jerusalem, a city steeped in history and spiritual significance. As the heart of the ancient world, Jerusalem seemed to echo with whispers of the past and promises of the future. For years, Netanyahu had sought divine guidance in his leadership, often turning to Scripture for wisdom and strength. On one particularly intense evening, as the weight of recent events bore heavily upon him, he knelt in quiet prayer. In the stillness, he experienced a presence unlike anything he had encountered before. It was profound, enveloping him in a sense of the eternal. His thoughts grew silent, and in that sacred moment, he felt the voice of the Spirit speaking directly to his heart. The words he heard were clear, their weight unmistakable. "Benjamin, the time is near. The nations will gather against Israel, but my plans for my people will not be shaken." Netanyahu trembled as he absorbed the message, his mind racing to grasp its full meaning. The Lord's ways, he knew, were often beyond human comprehension, revealing truths through visions, prophecies, and divine revelations. As the Apostle Paul once wrote, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part." 1 Corinthians 13:9. This moment, Netanyahu realized, was yet another piece of the greater divine puzzle. Honored yet burdened by its significance, he felt the gravity of being entrusted with such a message. In the days that followed, Netanyahu found himself returning to the words he had received. He was particularly struck by one phrase that stood out with prophetic clarity: Wilson's Arch. He delved into research, reflection, and prayer, seeking to uncover its meaning. Wilson's Arch, as he learned, was not just an architectural relic of Herodian Jerusalem. It had been part of an ancient bridge that once connected the Temple Mount to the upper city. This structure was more than a functional passage. It symbolized a connection between the sacred and the practical, the divine and the earthly. To Netanyahu, it represented a profound link between Israel's historical roots and its prophetic destiny. As Netanyahu pondered the significance of the arch, global tensions were reaching a boiling point. One fateful day, Iran launched a massive missile strike against Israel, with over 300 missiles raining down on the nation. The unprecedented attack was a stark reminder of the perilous times in which they lived. Despite the destruction and chaos, Israel's advanced defense systems intercepted most of the missiles, sparing the nation from catastrophic loss. Yet, the event shook the nation to its core. Netanyahu addressed the people on national television that evening, his voice steady but charged with emotion. "People of Israel," he began, his words resonating with urgency and faith. "These are prophetic times. The Lord has shown me that the nations will rise up against us, but He has also promised that He will never abandon us. It is written, 'I will fight against your enemies, and I will save your children.'" Isaiah 49:25. Netanyahu's message was not merely one of resilience, but also of spiritual awakening. He spoke of Wilson's Arch as a sign, a symbol of something far greater than the immediate crisis. "This war will not be the end of us," he declared. "It will be the beginning of something bigger, because the Lord still has plans for Israel." His words called the people to unity, faith, and vigilance, reminding them of their divine heritage and the God who had brought them to this land. In the days that followed, the international response to the missile strike was mixed. Some nations condemned Iran's aggression, while others remained silent, wary of taking sides in a conflict fraught with historical and political complexity. Amid the geopolitical turmoil, Netanyahu's resolve only deepened. He sought the Lord's guidance with even greater fervor, leading with courage and determination. He believed that even in the darkest moments, God's light would shine upon Israel. The 300 missile strike, Netanyahu later reflected, was more than a military event. It was a spiritual turning point. For him and for the nation, it served as a reminder that Scripture was unfolding before their very eyes. The events surrounding Wilson's Arch, the unprecedented attack, and the word of the Lord all pointed to a divine narrative far greater than any human understanding. Just as in the days of old, the Lord remained the guardian and protector of his people. One evening, after an exhausting day of leadership and prayer, Netanyahu whispered into the quiet, "Lord, give me wisdom to lead your people and courage to face the times ahead. For I know that you are faithful and that your promises will never fail." As he continued his reflections, a memory stirred within him. Years earlier, a prophetic word had been shared regarding Wilson's Arch, hinting at a future season when its significance would become evident. Now, Netanyahu felt certain that the season had arrived. He understood that the Lord was not only speaking to him, but also to the global body of believers. As Paul had written, "Follow the way of love and eagerly desire gifts of the Spirit, especially prophecy." 1 Corinthians 14:1. Determined to act on this revelation, Netanyahu convened a meeting with his closest advisors and spiritual leaders. In the secure chamber of his office, he recounted the vision and the prophetic word. "God has spoken," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "He is preparing us for a time when the nations will rise against Israel, as foretold in the Scriptures." The words I heard were Wilson's Arch, and I believe it is a symbol of something deeper, a connection between our history and the prophetic future. The advisors listened intently, some nodding in agreement, others deep in contemplation. Netanyahu continued, explaining the historical significance of the Arch and its role in Jerusalem's ancient past. He described it as a bridge, both literally and metaphorically, a link between the sacred and the earthly. "The Arch," he said, "reminds us of our roots, our promises, and the God who has never forsaken us." As the meeting progressed, Netanyahu's words inspired a renewed sense of purpose among the leaders. They discussed the importance of unity, faith, and vigilance in the face of mounting challenges. Netanyahu's vision galvanized them, reminding them that Israel's destiny was intertwined with God's eternal plans. For Netanyahu, the days ahead were filled with both trials and triumphs. He continued to seek the Lord's guidance, leading Israel through a time of unprecedented challenges. The prophetic significance of Wilson's Arch remained a source of strength and inspiration, a reminder that the Lord's plans for his people would not be shaken. In the quiet moments of reflection, Netanyahu often returned to the words he had heard in prayer. "The time is near." He knew that these were not just words for him, but a call to the nation and to believers around the world. As the leader of Israel, he bore the weight of this divine revelation, yet he also found solace in the faithfulness of God. For he knew that, just as in the days of old, the Lord would continue to be the guardian and protector of his people, guiding them through the challenges ahead and fulfilling his promises in ways beyond human comprehension. National unity in the face of impending challenges, Israel stands as a bridge, a connection between heaven and earth, between God's promises and the fulfillment of His plan. As the nations gather, we must stand firm in our faith. It is written, "Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you." Isaiah 54:10. Netanyahu also spoke of the prophetic nature of God's revelations, reminding the leaders that no one person holds the full picture. "The Spirit speaks as He wills," he said. "We are but vessels receiving in part and sharing as commanded." This word about Wilson's Arch is not just for me. It is for all of us, for the church, for the believers around the world. It is a call to prepare, to pray, and to stand together as the people of God. The weight of his words lingered in the room, and Netanyahu could see the impact on those present. They understood that this was not just a political leader speaking, but a man deeply connected to the divine purpose of Israel. In the weeks that followed, Netanyahu felt a growing sense of urgency. He began to address the nation, calling for a return to the foundations of faith and reliance on God. He quoted the scriptures boldly, reminding his people of God's promises and His faithfulness. "Israel's existence is no accident," he declared in a televised address. "We are here because the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has ordained it, and as He has been faithful in the past, so will He be in the days to come." The mention of Wilson's Arch became a symbol of hope and vigilance. Netanyahu used it as a reminder of the need to bridge the gap between the past and the future, to draw strength from history while looking forward to the fulfillment of God's plans. Though the times were uncertain, Netanyahu held firmly to the promises of Scripture. He often meditated on the words of Jeremiah. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. These words were a beacon of hope, not only for him, but for the entire nation. As Benjamin Netanyahu continued to lead Israel through a challenging season, he remained steadfast in his faith, knowing that the Lord's hand was upon his people. The prophetic word about Wilson's Arch was a reminder of God's intricate plan, a call to trust in Him even when the full picture remained unseen. In the quiet moments of reflection, Netanyahu often whispered a prayer of gratitude, knowing that the God of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps, and that His promises are eternal. The sun had just begun to set over Jerusalem, casting a golden glow upon the ancient stones of the city. Benjamin Netanyahu stood in quiet reflection, his heart heavy with the weight of leadership. As the Prime Minister of Israel, his responsibility for the safety and prosperity of his people was a burden he carried with both pride and reverence. On this particular evening, however, he felt an unusual stirring within him, a prompting that seemed to beckon him towards something beyond the physical realm. In his private chamber, surrounded by books, artifacts, and symbols of Israel's storied history, Netanyahu turned his thoughts heavenward. He began to pray, asking for wisdom and clarity in these uncertain times. And then it came, a vivid divine vision that would stay with him for years to come. In the vision, Netanyahu saw an ancient structure, Wilson's Arch. He had walked past it countless times without giving it much thought, yet now it was illuminated with a brilliance that seemed otherworldly. The Lord's voice resonated in his spirit, clear and undeniable. "This arch is like the prayers of my people, holding up the nation of Israel. Their prayers are essential to sustain Israel through the trials that are to come." Netanyahu was both awed and humbled by this revelation. He understood the depth of its meaning, that the prayers of believers worldwide were a spiritual foundation for his nation. Just as the arch had once supported a bridge that connected the Temple Mount to the upper city, so too did these prayers provide unseen strength, holding Israel steady amidst the storms of history. Months passed, and Netanyahu often revisited this vision in his mind, seeking to understand its full implications. Then came the fateful events of October 7th. The day marked the beginning of a strange and troubling sequence of events. A global shift in public sentiment, support for Israel, once steadfast among allies and nations, began to waver in unprecedented ways. Netanyahu witnessed individuals and governments withdrawing their backing, creating a void of isolation that threatened to engulf the nation. It was in this moment of crisis that the significance of the Wilson's Arch vision became startlingly clear. God had forewarned him, and now he saw the fulfillment of that prophetic word unfolding before his eyes. Israel needs prayer now more than ever, he thought, recalling the divine message. The arch, once merely a relic of the past, now symbolized a spiritual truth of the present. As he addressed his advisors and spiritual leaders in a confidential meeting, Netanyahu shared the vision and its implications. "The Lord revealed to me the importance of prayer," he began, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "The Wilson's Arch is not just a structure. It is a symbol of the prayers that sustain us as a nation. And today, we are in dire need of those prayers. The support of the world may alter, but the prayers of God's people must remain unwavering." He quoted the scripture that had been echoing in his heart. "The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective," James 5:16. Netanyahu reminded them that the strength of Israel did not rest solely on military might or diplomatic alliances, but on the providence of God and the intercession of his people. In the weeks following October 7th, Netanyahu also began to notice other fulfillments of prophetic words. He had heard of warnings regarding attacks and rocket fire, which now seemed to align with the escalation of violence Israel faced. These events, though dire, served to reinforce his conviction that God was moving even in the midst of turmoil. During a national address, Netanyahu spoke to the people of Israel with both candor and hope. "We are in a challenging season," he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of a leader who bore the responsibility of guiding his nation through uncertainty. Yet, he reminded them of God's faithfulness and the power of prayer, urging every citizen to seek the Lord earnestly. "The God of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps," he declared, "and his promises are eternal. Let us stand firm in our faith and trust in his divine plan." In Gaza, more than 200 Muslim men, amidst their suffering, had a vision of Jesus Christ. Yes, you heard that right. Jesus appeared to them in their dreams. This isn't just a story. It's a real event that showcases God's endless love and power. Gaza, a place we often hear about because of its troubles, has seen so much suffering. The ongoing war has made life incredibly hard for its people. But right in the middle of all this, Jesus appeared in dreams to over 200 men, leading them to become Christians. Can you imagine that? In a place where hope seems far away, these men found it through their dreams of Jesus. These men, who had lost so much, found peace and comfort in Jesus' presence. Their dreams weren't just random. They were a shared experience that changed their lives forever. This amazing event reminds us of the Bible's words in Joel 2:28. "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." What could this mean for the people of Gaza? How did this extraordinary event come to be? And what impact has it had on the lives of those who experienced it? Stay with us as we explore these questions and uncover the full story behind this incredible miracle. Let's take a closer look at Gaza, a place with a rich and turbulent history. Gaza is one of the oldest cities in the world, with a history that dates back over 4,000 years. It has been a significant region, throughout various empires, including the Egyptians, Philistines, Romans, and Ottomans. This small strip of land, roughly 25 miles long and 7 miles wide, has seen countless battles and shifts in control. In more recent history, Gaza became part of the British Mandate of Palestine after World War I. Following the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, it fell under Egyptian control until 1967, when Israel captured it during the Six-Day War. Since then, Gaza has been a focal point of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In 2005, Israel withdrew its settlers and military, leaving Gaza under the control of the Palestinian Authority and later Hamas. Today, Gaza is often in the headlines due to its ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis. This tiny piece of land is home to nearly 2 million people, making it one of the most densely populated areas in the world. The residents of Gaza face daily struggles that many of us can hardly imagine. The blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt since 2007 has severely restricted the movement of people and goods. This has led to shortages of essential supplies, including food, medicine, and building materials. According to the United Nations, more than 80% of the population relies on humanitarian aid to survive. Unemployment rates are staggering, with over 50% of the workforce unable to find jobs. For the youth, the situation is even worse, with unemployment rates exceeding 70%. The constant threat of violence looms over Gaza's residents. The region has witnessed several intense conflicts in recent years, notably in 2008, 2012, and 2014. Each of these conflicts has left devastating impacts, destroying homes, schools, and hospitals. The psychological toll on the people, especially children, is immense. Many children in Gaza have never known a life without the sounds of bombs and gunfire. But in the midst of this suffering, the people of Gaza show incredible resilience. Their spirit remains unbroken despite the harsh realities they face daily. Families strive to create some semblance of normalcy, sending their children to school and trying to make ends meet. Community leaders and international organizations work tirelessly to provide relief and support, but the needs are overwhelming. One of the most heart-wrenching aspects of life in Gaza is the impact on children. Imagine growing up in an environment where fear and uncertainty are the norms. Many children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and other mental health issues due to the continuous exposure to violence. According to UNICEF, 1 in 3 children in Gaza requires psychological support. In the Bible, Psalm 34:18 tells us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." This verse resonates deeply with the plight of Gaza's residents. Despite their hardships, many find solace and strength in their faith. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is further compounded by inadequate infrastructure. The electricity supply is erratic, with many areas receiving only a few hours of power each day. The water situation is dire, with over 97% of the water being unfit for human consumption due to contamination and over-extraction. Health services are stretched thin, struggling to cope with the high demand and limited resources. In such a challenging environment, the role of faith and community becomes even more critical. Churches and mosques often serve as more than just places of worship. They are centers of support and hope. Christian missionaries in Gaza, though few, work under incredibly tough conditions to bring aid and share the message of Jesus Christ. Their work is a beacon of light in an otherwise dark and desperate situation. Isaiah 41:10 offers a message of hope. "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This promise is a source of comfort for many in Gaza as they navigate their daily struggles with faith and perseverance. The impact of the ongoing conflict is also seen in the educational sector. Schools are often damaged or destroyed, disrupting the education of thousands of children. Despite these challenges, parents and teachers strive to ensure that education continues, recognizing it as a vital part of their children's future. The people of Gaza are trapped in a cycle of poverty and conflict, with little opportunity to change their circumstances. The international community has called for a resolution to the blockade and improved humanitarian conditions. But progress is slow and often hampered by political complexities. In the midst of all this, a miraculous event took place. Over 200 Muslim men in Gaza, living in these harsh conditions, had a vision of Jesus Christ. This divine intervention brought them peace and led them to Christianity. It's a powerful testament to the presence of God, even in the most difficult circumstances. The experience of these men is a reminder that hope and faith can flourish even in the darkest of times. As we reflect on this incredible miracle, we are reminded of the enduring power of faith and the limitless reach of God's love. Even in the most difficult of places, as we continue to explore this story, let's keep in mind the resilience and faith of Gaza's people. Their strength in the face of unimaginable hardship is a reminder of the enduring human spirit and the profound impact of faith. What does this miracle mean for Gaza? How will it shape the future of those who experienced it? First, let me tell you about Ahmed, a father of 3 who lost his wife in the 2014 conflict. Ahmed's home was destroyed, and he struggled to provide for his children. Imagine the pain of seeing your loved ones suffer without being able to do much about it. Yet, despite these challenges, Ahmed found solace in his community and faith. He often quotes Psalm 46:1, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." This verse has been a beacon of hope for him, reminding him that God is always with him, even in the darkest times. Then there's Fatima, a young woman who dreams of becoming a teacher. Fatima's family lost everything when their house was bombed. They now live in a small, crowded apartment with other relatives. Despite these hardships, Fatima hasn't given up on her dreams. She attends a local school and helps younger children with their studies. Her resilience is truly inspiring. She holds on to Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. One of the most touching stories is that of Samir, a teenager who lost his leg during a bombing raid. Samir was an avid soccer player, and the injury shattered his dreams of becoming a professional athlete. However, his faith and the support of his community helped him find a new purpose. He now volunteers at a local church, helping to distribute aid to those in need. Samir often shares his favorite Bible verse, Philippians 4:13. "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." This verse has given him the strength to overcome his physical and emotional challenges. In addition to these individual stories, we see a collective resilience among the people of Gaza. Despite the destruction and scarcity, they come together to support each other. Community leaders play a crucial role in this, organizing aid distributions and providing emotional support. The local churches and mosques are often at the center of these efforts, serving as sanctuaries of hope and healing. Let's not forget the story of Leah, a mother of 5 who runs a small bakery. After losing her husband in the conflict, Leah had to find a way to support her family. With the help of her community and a small loan from a local charity, she started her bakery. Today, Leah's bakery is a beacon of hope in her neighborhood. She employs other widows and women who have lost their homes, giving them a chance to rebuild their lives. Leah finds strength in Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. These personal stories are a testament to the enduring human spirit. They show us that even in the face of unimaginable hardship, people can find strength, hope, and purpose. This resilience is not just a testament to their character, but also to the power of faith. It's a living embodiment of the promise in Romans 8:18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The stories of these individuals are intertwined with the broader narrative of Gaza's struggle. Each person's experience adds a layer of depth to our understanding of life in Gaza. The loss and suffering are real, but so is the hope and resilience. It's this duality that makes their stories so powerful and moving. As we reflect on these personal stories, we're reminded of the biblical narrative of Job, who endured immense suffering, yet remained steadfast in his faith. Job 1:21 tells us, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." This verse resonates deeply with the people of Gaza, who continue to praise God despite their hardships. The children of Gaza, too, exhibit extraordinary resilience. In a place where childhood is often overshadowed by conflict, they find ways to smile, play, and dream. Organizations like UNICEF report that many children suffer from PTSD, yet with the right support, they show remarkable recovery. These children are the future of Gaza, and their resilience gives us hope for a brighter tomorrow. In the midst of all this, the miraculous event of Jesus appearing in dreams to over 200 Muslim men stands out as a beacon of divine intervention. These men, who were once lost in despair, found hope and a new path through these visions. Their stories are not just about conversion. They are about finding peace and purpose in the midst of chaos. This event is a testament to the words of John 16:33. "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Now, let's dive into the heart of this miraculous event. Imagine living in Gaza, a place where conflict and hardship are part of daily life. In the midst of all this suffering, something extraordinary happened. Over 200 Muslim men experienced a vision that changed their lives forever. They saw Jesus Christ in their dreams. Yes, you heard that right. Jesus appeared to them, bringing a message of hope and salvation. This event is not just about the conversion of these men. It's about the profound impact of faith and the possibility of transformation, even in the most challenging circumstances. For these men, the visions of Jesus provided a sense of peace and a new direction in life. They found a community of believers who supported and welcomed them, helping them navigate their new faith journey. Eyewitness testimonies from both the men who experienced the visions and the Christian missionaries who witnessed the aftermath provide compelling evidence of this miraculous event. One of the most compelling stories comes from a man named Omar. Omar had been living in despair, having lost his family and his home to the ongoing conflict. One night, he had a vivid dream where Jesus appeared to him, extending his hand and offering peace. Omar woke up feeling an overwhelming sense of calm and hope, something he hadn't felt in years. Another powerful testimony comes from Ali, a young man deeply troubled by the violence around him. In his dream, Jesus appeared and spoke to him, saying, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." John 14:27. Ali woke up with tears in his eyes, feeling a profound sense of love and acceptance. He immediately sought out the Christian missionaries to learn more about Jesus and the Christian faith. These visions were not isolated incidents. Over 200 men had similar dreams on the same night, all describing seeing Jesus, who brought the messages of peace and comfort. This shared experience created a strong bond among them, leading them to seek out Christian teachings together. The emotional impact of these dreams was profound. Many of these men had been living in constant fear and sadness, but after their visions, they felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The Christian missionaries in Gaza were astonished by these reports. They had been working tirelessly to provide aid and share the message of Jesus, but had never witnessed anything like this. One of the missionaries, Pastor Michael, described it as divine intervention. It was as if Jesus himself came down to show these men the way. The missionaries quickly organized gatherings to support and teach these new believers, helping them understand the significance of their visions and guiding them on their spiritual journey. These miraculous dreams had an immediate and powerful effect on the individuals who experienced them. For many, it was a turning point. Take Hassan, for example. He had been a staunch skeptic, refusing to believe in anything he couldn't see or touch. But after his dream, where Jesus appeared to him with open arms, Hassan couldn't deny the reality of what he had seen. He found comfort in the words of Acts 9:18, which recounts the conversion of Saul. Immediately, something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he could see again. He got up and was baptized. The shared vision of Jesus brought these men together in a way that nothing else could. They began to meet regularly, supporting each other, and growing in their new faith. This sense of community was crucial, especially in a place like Gaza, where isolation and despair are common. Their newfound faith gave them strength and resilience, enabling them to face their challenges with a renewed spirit. The emotional impact on these men was profound. Many had been living in a state of hopelessness, but the appearance of Jesus in their dreams gave them something to believe in. They found comfort in the Bible, especially in verses like Matthew 11:28, where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This promise of rest and peace resonated deeply with them, providing a much-needed source of hope. This event didn't just affect the men who had the visions, it also had a ripple effect on their families and communities. Wives, children, and neighbors saw the change in these men and were curious to learn more. Some began attending the gatherings, wanting to understand what had brought about such a profound transformation. This sparked a wave of interest and curiosity about Christianity, spreading the message of Jesus even further. One particularly touching story is that of Abdul, who had been estranged from his family due to his struggles and despair. After his vision of Jesus, Abdul reached out to his family, asking for their forgiveness and expressing his newfound hope. His family, seeing the genuine change in him, welcomed him back with open arms. This reconciliation was a testament to the healing power of faith and the message of love and forgiveness that Jesus brings. The missionaries also witnessed an outpouring of support from the international Christian community. Churches and organizations around the world sent aid and prayers, moved by the miraculous event in Gaza. This global support provided much-needed resources and encouragement to the new believers, reinforcing the idea that they were part of a larger, loving community. The significance of this event cannot be overstated. In a place where hope is often in short supply, the appearance of Jesus in the dreams of over 200 men brought a wave of faith, love, and unity. It reminded everyone that no matter how dire the circumstances, God's love is ever present and powerful enough to bring about change. As Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Now that we've explored the miraculous visions of Jesus experienced by over 200 Muslim men in Gaza, let's take a closer look at the unsung heroes who played a crucial role in this story. These include the Christian missionaries, community leaders, and international supporters who provided aid, guidance, and hope to the new believers. Their tireless efforts ensured that the men who had these visions could embark on their spiritual journey with the support they needed. The people of Gaza, despite facing immense hardships, have shown incredible resilience and faith. The miraculous visions of Jesus Christ have brought hope and new purpose to over 200 men, demonstrating the profound impact of faith even in the most challenging circumstances. Their stories are a testament to the enduring human spirit and the limitless reach of God's love, inspiring us all to find hope and strength in our own lives.
Shit going on, bud. I'm talking about.
Yeah, you saw that shit now. I tried to tell you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That fucking thing going through the atmosphere.
Hezbollah launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel, most of which were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome. The attack is in response to an Israeli strike that killed one of the Iranian-backed militant group's top commanders.
On April 13, 2024, Iran launched a significant military attack against Israel. That night, hundreds of Iranian drones and missiles flew through the skies, attempting to penetrate Israeli airspace. Most of these were intercepted by Israel's defense systems before reaching their targets. Despite this, the event highlights the growing tension and the potential for an imminent conflict. Many Bible scholars interpret this incident as more than just a military escalation. They see it as a possible fulfillment of biblical prophecy. They refer to the war of Gog and Magog mentioned in the Old Testament and by the Apostle John in Revelation chapter 20. Currently, the United States is vigorously reinforcing its support for Israel. Israeli authorities have brought to light an issue they consider vital and alarming: the imminence of a prophecy that, according to them, demands global attention. This prophecy, mentioned in several religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Zoroastrianism, predicts the arrival of a messianic leader. Israel, being the epicenter of these religions, occupies a key position in this prophecy. However, there is marked division and heated debate among scholars and believers about the true meaning of this prophecy. To truly understand this prophecy, it is essential to explore the ancient history of Israel, which originates with Abraham. At the age of 75, responding to God's call, Abraham set out with his wife, Sarai, and his nephew towards the land of Canaan. This region, which would later be known as Israel, was home to diverse tribes, each with its own cultures and beliefs, coexisting harmoniously through agriculture and trade. Canaan, and later Israel, has a deep historical, cultural, and religious relevance for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. With Jerusalem as its capital, this city is a meeting point of sacred sites for these three great religions. The narrative of Israel is marked by a sequence of conquests and divisions, from biblical times to more recent events, including Jewish migration to Palestine over the centuries. Jerusalem has been the scene of ongoing renaissance and significant historical transformations, culminating in Israel's declaration of independence in 1948. This ancient city, a witness to the dominions of various powers and cultural influences, carries in its soil and stones the history of humanity. During the reign of Solomon, Jerusalem reached one of its greatest periods of splendor with the construction of the First Temple, a spiritual and political milestone that reflects the centrality of the city in religious and governmental life. Jerusalem occupies a place of incomparable depth in the traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Jerusalem holds profound spiritual significance for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. For Jews, it is the spiritual heart, the scene of divine manifestations, and the home of the Western Wall. It is a place where their religious identity and history converge. In Christianity, Jerusalem is revered as the scene of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ, with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre being a pivotal pilgrimage site. For Muslims, Jerusalem is the third holiest city, enriched by its association with the Prophet Muhammad and home to iconic sites such as the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. The history of Jerusalem is marked by cycles of conquest and cultural exchange, from ancient Israelite times through Ottoman rule. Each era has added layers to its rich tapestry, making it a focal point of historical and religious significance. The modern Israeli-Palestinian conflict has introduced further complexity, with both sides claiming Jerusalem as their capital, thus making it a central issue in international peace negotiations. Jerusalem's Temple Mount is a place of universal importance, revered by multiple faiths. For Christians, the Mount of Olives, where Jesus is believed to have ascended to heaven, and other sites related to the life and death of Jesus, are of vital importance. Muslims venerate Jerusalem as the site of the Prophet Muhammad's miraculous night journey from Mecca to Jerusalem and his subsequent ascension to heaven from the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock, with its striking golden dome, is both an architectural marvel and a symbol of Jerusalem's significance in Islam. In addition to its religious importance, Jerusalem is a city deeply woven into the fabric of history and geopolitics. Throughout the centuries, it has been a focal point for numerous religions and civilizations. From the ancient Israelites and Canaanites to the Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Crusaders, and Ottomans, each conqueror sought possession of the city, making it a vibrant center of religious and cultural exchange. Today, the Old City of Jerusalem showcases the coexistence of different religions within a compact space, with its majestic landscapes and winding streets reflecting a long history of shared faith and reverence. The dream of rebuilding the Third Temple in Jerusalem has persisted among Jews since the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 CE. The First Temple, built by Solomon on the Temple Mount between the 10th and 6th centuries BCE, was destroyed during the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem. The Second Temple, later expanded by Herod the Great, was an architectural wonder until its destruction. The aspiration to build a Third Temple, which would rival its predecessors in splendor and durability, remains strong despite significant challenges. The primary obstacle to constructing the Third Temple is the religious and political contention surrounding the Temple Mount, also known to Muslims as Haram al-Sharif. The site is sacred to both Jews and Muslims, and any attempt to alter the status quo is met with intense opposition, particularly from Islamic nations and Palestinian authorities, who also claim Jerusalem as their capital. This deep-rooted contention adds a complex layer to the already intricate historical and cultural landscape of the city. Recent historical discoveries, such as Jewish artifacts from the British Mandate period, have reinforced Jewish claims to Jerusalem and fueled efforts to build the Third Temple. However, selecting a site for the temple is fraught with difficulty due to the Temple Mount's immense religious significance. Obtaining the necessary bureaucratic authorizations presents a major challenge, as does securing the delicate balance between tradition and modern architectural innovation. Additionally, the project requires substantial funding, necessitating a broad mobilization effort to attract donations from supporters around the world. The contemporary reality of Jerusalem is one of deep religious interconnections, juxtaposed with political strife. The city's sacred sites continue to draw pilgrims from all over the world, reflecting its enduring spiritual magnetism. Yet the geopolitical struggle over its control persists, influencing both regional and global politics. Jerusalem's status remains one of the most contentious issues in peace negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians, with both groups holding profound historical and religious claims to the city. Despite these tensions, Jerusalem stands as a symbol of shared faith and reverence. Its historical and spiritual significance continues to inspire millions. The intricate layers of religious and historical claims have fostered a unique cultural and religious mosaic that, while a source of conflict, also offers a profound testament to the city's enduring legacy as a center of faith, history, and human civilization.